Today's video, we're going to talk about why Google Ads recommendations suck and why they're cookie cutter budget wasters, which is a perfect description for what they actually are, okay? Not to crap on these any more than what they are should be or warranted. They actually do have a few useful things in there that you can use. Mainly if you're an inexperienced advertiser. No offense to anybody who is, but if you don't really know much about ads whatsoever, they can help you out understand the kind of basic principles of what you should do with your ads to get them to scale. Not necessarily to get them to become more efficient, make them profitable, but scale, given that Google's recommendations are there to basically make them more money. They want you to spend more. Ideally, they get you to spend more and you make more, so it's more sustainable growth. But if they cannot, find a way to get you to make more and spend more at the same time, they're just going to get you to spend more because they're a publicly traded company that needs more revenues every quarter. For that matter, I'm going to separate out the BS and what they got with the recommendations and what you can actually use with it, and in general explain why these are basically so bad. Other than the fact that they're just trying to recommend stuff to get you to raise your spend without getting any more sales in return, I will go into more so the specifics here. Of course, why I call them cookie cutter recommendations, because they're very similar we manage dozens of accounts here at our ad agency. They're very similar account to account, which shows why, more than anything, they are not very good, because it's a one size fit all approach. And if it were that easy to make money with ads, all your competitors would be doing it and there wouldn't be any edge from doing it. Of course, if there was one way to run ads for every mechanic, they would just they'd ask you what business you have, and then they would run the ads for you. But of course, if they did that, then how are you going to get a return? Google would just make sure everybody makes a tiny, thin profit margin, and then ultimately you wouldn't be happy with that either anyway. Anyway, with that said, I'm going to go through all those details and more, and then I'll go through a couple of case studies of where this actually was useful for us, so you can actually profit from it, from the little that it does offer in terms of positive value, but more so saving you money, not spending your time and money on using these recommendations. If you do not know who I am Corey Zyman, owner of Guaranteed PPC, an online advertising agency that specializes in guaranteeing results for their clients. That is, we do not charge our clients management fees until we can get them a certain minimum lift in their profitability, basically in excess of the management fees that we charge. We are the only agency out there who offers a similar management guarantee, which should offer some value to you, or which should show you why the information on this video is so valuable. That is, it's coming from somebody who has to literally guarantee results on ad campaigns to get paid. So for that matter, and with nobody else doing exactly what I just mentioned, let's get into the content. So I've managed hundreds of accounts before, and I manage in terms of Google accounts specifically, about 50 right now. And when I say manage, I do the strategy, our team does the execution, and I look over their execution. So I'm the person who comes up with the ideas that guarantee your clients results. And I can tell you that the recommendations that Google gives, you are basically the same account to account, okay? So that's why I call them cookie cutter. I can look at 50 different accounts, see the recommendations on all of them, and with that I could basically tell you plus or minus 50%, they're all the same recommendations account to account. All they're doing, their algorithm clearly is set up to, all it's doing is it's going to look at your account in terms of mostly what it's doing, see what you don't do right now, and recommend you do it. Okay? But as I've talked about many times on this channel before, there is no one way to run ads for all different for all businesses in general. There's general rules that can be applied, but there's businesses where it will work and where it won't work. The algorithm's not sophisticated enough to know what business you have and where it will work and where it won't work. So they just recommend it to you anyway, knowing that it'll raise your spend and it'll be one step closer to getting a higher quarterly estimate, revenue, profit they could report to investors and get their stock price to go up. And the executives can make their exercise their bonus structure. With that said, you got to be really taking everything they say with a grain of salt, because even if they wanted to make these recommendations save you money, there's no one size fits all approach that will work for all accounts, which is the other reason why, by the way, I get a lot of requests for, hey, Corey, can you make a course for Google ads. Well, there's not a way to do it for all markets. And by time I try to say, but if you have this and you have this, you should do this. But if you have this, the course would just end up being slop anyway. Nobody would want to see it. Unfortunately, you can watch these videos and know general principles to know at least have a better than average chance of what you're doing is going to work. At the end of the day, you're going to have to try it for your market and figure out what works for your market. So anyway, with that said, the reason why the recommendations, if you just automatically apply all of them, which is what Google would love you to do, why that won't make you any money is because they mix the good recommendations with the bad, okay? There's a few good things in there. They mix it with all the bad, so people can't just claim it's all bad, so to say. The good stuff that they recommend will be like, basically if you were to add this ad asset to your ad on this particular campaign and all the ads in there, you'd actually get a higher click-through rate. It would actually work. But the good stuff in there that will actually make you money versus just raise your spend is like 10-20% of it. If you don't have a background in running Google ads for a living, how are you going to know which 10-20% is actually worth doing? How the math works out, if you do everything, you're going to lose money doing it. So unless you know how to decipher good from bad in there, you're better off doing nothing or hiring somebody who knows what they're doing and let them handle it. For that matter, I don't agree, by the way, people should just let an expert handle it and don't know anything about Google ads because that's the easiest way to get your ass handed to you. That's like being a young, cute girl going to the mechanic and say, oh, my car doesn't work, it's squeaking. You're going to get screwed. You're a flaming target for Google when you don't know anything and you're willing to just agree with what they say. And people agree with Google because it's Google. They say, why would Google screw me over? Which I don't know why people say that about Google. They have people view it so well and that's what they're banking on, frankly. So you got to know about Google enough that if you are hiring somebody, they don't scam you. And if that agency doesn't know what they're doing, you can tell it. And that goes along with this as well. Of course, if you're going to do the recommendations, got to have some basic principles about how Google Ads works, how the system actually works versus what you want it to work like, which that's the biggest mistake people make, is they think it's a switch. If I do this, X happens. If I do this, this happens. And I can just try different things until something works. And it all runs off an algorithm now. And any change you make that's negative is going to affect you twice. Once when you make the change, and then when you have to change it back. And so if you change stuff all the time, you're just going to send the account down to the shitter, ultimately. And I've talked about that all the time on this channel. You got to be able to know likely what will work, change it, wait a while, change something else, and it's going to be very, very carefully thought out. Here are the recommendations, ultimately, that the accounts will tell you, that all of our clients' accounts will basically say. The recommendations either add extensions or assets, so add a site link description, add an image, extension, or asset as Google calls them now. Add audiences, so they'll say create an audience that has all your search keywords in it for a display or YouTube campaign you may be running, or turn on optimized targeting, which is the worst, by the way, unless you're selling some mass market thing that at least 1 in 100 people would buy, because it'll just show up everywhere, practically speaking. Use PMax. They love you to use PMax because once you're on PMax, they can run your ads outside of Google search in places nobody else wants to run their ads, so they can get the revenues to go up. Search partners, which is terrible for search campaigns, that again gets your ads to run outside of Google search itself, which, by the way, there's one of the 5 main campaign types you can run is demand gen campaigns, which are supposed to run your ads, or what was supposed to have your ads run on Gmail and YouTube. What did Google do with that campaign? Now there's an option you can run it on the display network where you're not going to make any money. It's like every single thing they do is to try to get you to accidentally or not, believe that Google Display Network is going to work for your business and then run, because nobody wants those ads. Most people don't want it. There's a way to make it work, but you have to be skillful as hell to understand how to get that to work. Well, with PMax, it's just one of the things they can encourage you to do, which will get your ads running on Display Network, where a bunch of waste, it's going to waste your money itself. So that's why they're doing that more than anything. Switch bidding strategies. They'll say they want you, of course, on smart bidding. Why? Because their algorithm can take over the management of your campaign once you're on smart bidding, given that, of course, most people don't manage their campaigns very much at all, if at all. They actually can optimize their campaign for you, which that in itself isn't bad, because assuming you have the right tracking data flowing into your ad account, because Google can see what's working, what's not, make adjustments. They want to make those adjustments because they also, other than making revenue short term, they want people to come back to Google and click on ads in the future. And they're not going to do that if they show crappy ads that lead to websites that don't help the user. So smart bidding will help you. It's one of those things where they'll help you and help them at the same time. But you got to have the tracking set up right. Otherwise, the algorithm is going to optimize for the wrong things. If your tracking is set up wrong, it's going to optimize for the wrong things. Like if your tracking only counts people who click on the phone number versus actually call your phone number, it's going to optimize for a bunch of bot clicks, and then instead of helping, it's going to hurt you. Use customer match. Of course, Google wants to have you upload their customer list, your customer list, to their platform. Why? Because they could take that customer list and it's worth money on the open market. They can also use it to enhance their own data sets about ultimately what these people are and what they do. If you sell surfboards and you give them a list of 50,000 customers who bought surfboards, they can use it so that other people who want to market to people selling surfboards, given usually people buy more than one in their lifetime, to the other advertisers who want to also sell surfboards, and so that data is money to them. Of course, they're going to frame it as, oh, we can actually better understand how to run your ads if you give us your customer list, which it does do as a side. Fair enough. But they also can use that data list to make money with other accounts. So they're not even making more by getting you to spend more because your ads, they can better know where your ads would be profitable, but they also get other advertisers to spend more as a result of it. So keep that in mind. So they want you to do it for that reason. You should upload your customer list. If you have at least 1,000 names, it'll absolutely help your ads. It'll also help people that are coming through that are about ready to buy at the last second for your ad to show up at the top to capture that last minute sale instead of somebody else gets it by having a slightly better offer at the last second. So that's the reason why you would do it. Display expansion. In addition to search partners, if you don't know what you're doing, which they're taking advantage of people here, clearly, you can also have your campaigns run on the display network itself with display expansion. Search partners get you a search result on if a website has a search bar on it, your ad can show up there, and that would be search partners, mainly is what that is. Whereas display expansion would be having a banner ad, if you will, with the text that was on your ad, on your search campaign, embedded within a banner ad on another website somewhere. And that basically doesn't make money either, because if you're going to make money with banner ads, spots that normally host banner ads, you got to have a really well-defined plan where you're saying X to get them to the landing page to do Y, and it's different than what is going to work with a search ad. Totally different. You got to make an exceptional offer to people to make money with ads on the display network. And on search, it's just about giving people what they want quickly and efficiently. On the display network is, how do I say something so outlandish, so amazing, that they'll stop what they were doing reading that article to click through my ad right now. And a lot of times you have to offer them like, guaranteed lowest rate on your mortgage. Otherwise, we'll give you a free Outback Steakhouse gift card for $100. And if you're in market for a mortgage and you know that, you of course want to jump on that. It's unique, which is a real campaign we ran before. Budget raising. So of course, literally they can recommend you raise your budget to get you to raise your budget, they'll recommend that. Now I will say that when they do recommend you raise the budget, it's usually because they anticipate a future increase in demand coming, so it's not all bad. They don't just say double your budget, because I think they know better. If they piss off their users too much by recommending them double the budget and then they get zero extra sales, or like 10 or 20% extra sales, people will get pissed off and walk away, and they'll really start to lose their trust that they have with users. If it does recommend raising the budget and it says it's for seasonal changes, I would recommend doing that actually. Those are the main things that they're going to recommend to you time and time again. With the first one about ad extensions or ad assets, I recommend just doing all of those anyway. Every single extension you could use, do it, because it's going to make your ad bigger. You'll have higher click-through rate, and you're going to make more money. There's a few exceptions, like if you're just trying to get phone calls, I would minimize all those and just do my call extension or call asset. I've talked about that on a separate video before. But in general, you just want to make the ad as big as possible, because the more bigger the ad is, the more eyeballs that are going to be on that ad, essentially. Not always, assuming Google likes your ad, knows it gets a good response rate from users, then their response is going to be to make your ad bigger and push the other ads down, because most people like your ad anyway, so they want more people to click on your ad. So the overall people that search X, Y, and Z are going to get the best experience possible because they're pushing more people towards your ad, which, by the way, is the way that Google works now. You're either going to come heavy and have an ad, a landing page, or website better than the competition in terms of click-through rate, conversion rate. Otherwise, you're not going to make any money because their algorithm's actively trying to figure out the top 10 or 20% of advertisers, push them as much as possible, and everybody else gets the remnant traffic, which don't really convert well. And they'll make your ad bigger. They'll push it higher in the list. And of course, they'll show it a higher percentage of the time. All of it contributes to you getting more market share and the other people getting less, ultimately. For that matter, and this is a small site as well, they're also going to give you the higher percentage of the traffic that actually converts because they can kind of tell if somebody's likely to convert or not and have your ad show up for the people most likely to convert if you are the one they want to encourage to put up front because you're helping the users better than everybody else. The bid of what you're paying per click is less than half of the algorithm that decides how much you're getting shown and to what quality of people. So anyway, you should just do all these assets anyway. You don't need Google to tell you that you need to do that. For the ad audiences, I like to use keyword audiences. That is, you create a custom intent audience targeting all the keywords that people type in on Google to use to target your display campaign, demand gen campaign, YouTube campaign, which that's one of our main go-to strategies actually. They've searched for buy pottery in the last 30 days. I want my ad to show up on these other websites for a person that has searched for buy pottery when I sell pottery. So that one actually is good, but I would just do that anyway. You don't need the system to recommend that to you. And then optimized targeting is garbage. So don't fall for that one. PMax, you should be only using PMax if it's a e-commerce business. And even with that, I use a feed-only setup. Why? Because it runs shopping placements better than a standalone shopping campaign will run search placements most of the time. There's some occasions where if you're selling branded product, I'll actually run a standard shopping campaign so I can negate out by adding negative keywords, everything that's not brand search related. Honda Civic, like that. Or in this case, like JRC mobility scooter. I'm selling those items and I have small margins. I just want to show up for the branded searches, not mobility scooter, because it doesn't convert well enough for us to make a profit. And then standard shopping campaigns are better to hone that in. In any other situation, I'm running PMax because there's more machine learning built into the system to get me more results than with the standard shopping campaign. And it's been like that for a few years. I use feed-only setup so that you're not going to show up on anything else besides shopping because you're going to run a better search ad through a standalone search campaign than you will through that PMax campaign where you don't have all the controls. You can make unique ads for each keyword to get the highest click-through rates and hand select the landing page or part of the website the user needs to go to specifically. Search partners, practically speaking, just to keep it simple, you never want to do that. Switching bid strategies, well, the systems recommend you switch bidding strategies. It's probably a decent time to do it, but you don't need them to tell you this. You should just know that once you get a few dozen conversions, you should already be using smart bidding because it's always going to make you more money than non-smart bidding. There's people that dispute that because they'll say, well, Google's just going to jack up your budget and take control of your budget if you do that. Well, the reality is I don't care how good advertising person you are, you're not going to beat the smart bidding systems that's allowing you to sub-segment the keyword traffic that you're bidding on thousands of times. So they know what percentage of people searching for that pottery equipment is a buyer versus a not buyer, and then have your ad show up more aggressively when they sense that person based upon all their previous search activity, what websites they've ever visited, that they're 86% likely to turn into a customer. And then as a result of that, make sure you're being charged twice as much per click, but it's worth it because the user's 4 times more than likely to convert. You're not going to do this with your standard manual bid adjustments and everything else. I'm sorry. I, thought the same thing for a while. And then I just realized with smart bidding, you can't beat it nowadays. So you should just be doing smart bidding anyway. You don't need Google to tell you that. Customer match, you should be doing that anyway. Google doesn't need to tell you that. Display expansion, that's just dumb. To keep it simple, don't do that one. Budget raising, if you've been advertising for a while, Google senses that you should be spending more for the upcoming buying season. That's the time when you can do it. Otherwise, take that information with a grain of salt. That goes over the main recommendations, which ones are actually halfway okay, which ones are not. At least if you're not going to hire an expert to help you, that you don't get completely railroaded by them with these recommendations. But really, 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 I'm telling you, anymore, Google Ads is so complicated now. that you have to have an expert that at least you consult with time to time. In addition to being able to watch these videos on this channel and other stuff you can find online to learn how to run Google Ads, because it's changing all the time and it's hard. And then when you're competing against other advertisers who are better than you at Google Ads, you don't have a chance. It's not like this is something you can learn in a weekend. It takes years to really get really phenomenal at it. And you just don't have the time to do it. Well, that's the time when you use money to fix the issue and bridge that gap, if you will. Ultimately, and with that, we offer a PPC service here at our agency where we don't charge our clients management fees until we get you a lift in profitability. Well, the ads, the management fee pays for itself if you got the right one. And, we essentially guarantee that, assuming that we know we can get you results, and we'll tell you that up front. Maybe we can get you results for that, but for that matter, a PPC service that works pays for itself every time. The question is who can get results? And that's really the real question versus trying to man it yourself. That is, if you're at least doing like $500,000 a year in sales revenue already, because if you're not, it's tough to afford the agency because they got so much overhead, they got to charge you a minimum amount to manage your ads. And that's when you kind of have to learn it yourself. But even then, doing a coaching call with someone like myself for 30 minutes to ask if you're at least on the right track with your ideas and what you want to do, that's a godsend. You can reach out to my agency and do that. We do coaching and consulting. And with that, we can tell you if you're wasting your time or it should be slightly tweaked what you're doing. And so you don't waste a bunch of time doing everything under the sun just to find out what works. It's silly. You're not going to save money doing that in actuality. We also sell ad templates. If we've already worked in your niche market before, we could sell you the winning ad, landing page, campaign template that works for your exact niche market that we ran in another country that you're in, another city that you're in, same niche market, already got the results you ultimately would be looking for in your geographic area, wherever you're at. And you could just use what we use there in another market there. If you're interested in that, you can also reach out to me at my firm. We've got over 100 different niche markets that we have templates available, and we can tell you the results you're going to get with the template up front. So at the very least, you should find out what results we got in your niche market already, because that tells you everything you need to know. We've got people using these templates to start other businesses even. If you wanted to start a new business today, I promise you the best place to start is you got a grant, a technology or something like that you can get your hands on that other people don't have. Start with the template that we have, and then just find a way to deliver what we sell via that template. And you could sub out the work, subcontract. You could sell leads to business owners, which we've had people do with our templates. You could have drop shipping, have a drop shipping business. There's a lot of things you could do with that. Anyway, if you're interested in that, let me know. It's like basically having a business in a box, if you will. For that matter, the recommendations at our agency, knowing what we know, I'm going to automatically just dismiss them all, because the stuff that it does tell you to do, we already know how to do that stuff. And I talk about it on this channel already, so there's no value to us. If you are a novice advertiser, like I said, it can give you ideas, but it's the ideas that are good, you still got to know what those are. I've went over in this video, and you should be doing that stuff anyway. In actuality, you don't need necessarily the Google's system to tell you that you should be doing it, or at least that shouldn't be the case. As a side, if you haven't subscribed to this channel already, you absolutely should. The information on this channel is going to help you become a millionaire or multimillionaire running ads for your business, because the information you're getting is straight from the source, from somebody spending 40 hours a week legitimately doing ad strategy at our firm to tell you what's working. I literally have to spend my weekends telling you what I learned during the week at doing the strategy on our clients' accounts. And it's also coming from somebody who just doesn't work with clients and don't know how to run a business. I run multiple e-commerce stores as well. I'm a part owner in, and also ran several other e-commerce stores that I've exited in the past as well. So for that matter, you're getting information from somebody who actually knows what they're doing. So if you're serious about getting rich with running ads for your business, subscribe to this channel already. Go ahead and do it. Furthermore, you should check out my blog on my site at guaranteedppc.com/blog. The blog has fantastic information on it as well, with the strategies I'm personally using to guarantee results for clients at our firm, step by step, the whole, with screenshots, with everything you need to use them. If you had any questions about anything I covered here, by the way, or any marketing related question for that matter, you can leave me a comment below. I get back to every single person who leaves me a question or comment on this channel, usually within 24 hours time, if you will. So these recommendations At the very least, if it troubles you to see that your account score is low, just dismiss them. Your account score will go back to 100. Don't be fooled into thinking because my account score is low that I'm not making as much as I could or should, because that score, all it has to do with how many of the recommendations you said yes or no to. And without knowing which ones are good and just saying yes to everything automatically, that's a big mistake. But you already know now which ones are good as a whole because you've watched this video. I've got a fantastic offer for you here, ultimately. If you are sick of struggling trying to make your ads work, allow me to come in and make your ads totally for free. Okay, we'll not charge you a penny. In addition to that, I'll give you tens of thousands of dollars worth of ad spend to throw at ads to get a new campaign going for you that you're not running already off the ground, and so you can make millions of dollars a year running ads for your business. All that we ask is that we get a cut of your future revenue of your business, somewhere between 1 to 10%, and we'll do that for you, assuming you have a product or service that we know, we believe in, and that will do well. All it needs is advertising. We've done this with several companies already, of which we can give you the names of if you reach out to me personally on my site. And if you have something that we know that we would want to work with there. Ultimately, as long as you're shown some level of success with your company already, like you're not pre-revenue, we're interested in your business. So if you're interested in that, let me know. Reach out to me at guaranteedppc.com. Well, with that said, I'm going to wrap everything up with that. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.
Remember when I said Google Ads campaign was important during this video? Well, this video here tells you how to do it.